The hand comes fast. Byron Garrison's thick fingers close around the collar of a simple gray blazer, yanking hard enough to make fabric strain against seams. The woman wearing it doesn't cry out, doesn't stumble, doesn't fight back. She just goes rigid, her dark eyes fixed straight ahead as his voice cuts through the morning silence of Central Valley Superior Court. You don't belong here. Defendant area is over there. His words carry the casual cruelty of a man who's never been wrong, never been challenged, never been anything but the undisputed king of this marble-floored kingdom. Byron Garrison, head court clerk for 24 years, has mastered the art of reading people in 3 seconds flat. Dark skin, simple clothes, that particular stillness of someone who knows they're outmatched. Defendant. Had to be. The woman he's dragging doesn't speak. She lets herself be pulled across the polished floor, her practical shoes making whisper-soft sounds that somehow seem louder than his heavy boots. Her leather satchel stays clutched against her chest, organized and pristine in a way that seems almost deliberate. Byron's voice echoes off the high ceilings as he waves a crumpled document in his free hand. Case number CV-2024-1847, State versus Rodriguez, domestic violence violation. His tone drips with the satisfaction of a man proving a point. See, you're on the docket. Defendants wait on the benches until their cases are called. Basic courthouse procedure. Still, she says nothing. Her silence seems to irritate him more than protests would have. The courtroom door behind them clicks twice. The sound hangs in the air like a held breath. Then silence. The Central Valley Superior Court stands like a monument to bureaucratic intimidation. 6 stories of weathered brick and narrow windows that seem designed to make people feel small. Inside, the air carries the permanent scent of floor wax, burnt coffee, and something harder to define. Fear, maybe, or resignation. At 7:45 a.m., the main lobby exists in that brief, deceptive calm before the daily storm of desperate people seeking justice they can't afford. The woman Byron deposited on the defendant bench 40 minutes ago hasn't moved. She sits with her back straight, satchel balanced precisely on her knees, watching everything with the kind of attention that seems almost predatory. Her name, according to the driver's license she'll eventually be forced to produce, is Essence Whitmore. She's 36, though her face carries the kind of composure that makes age irrelevant. What Byron saw as simple clothes are actually carefully chosen. The gray blazer is wool, expensive but understated. Her shoes are leather, broken in but well maintained. Everything about her appearance suggests someone who knows exactly what impression she wants to make, which is no impression at all. From her vantage point on the hard wooden bench, she has a perfect view of Byron's kingdom. The clerk's station sits behind bulletproof glass like a fortress within a fortress. With 3 windows but only one currently open, Byron rules from behind that glass with the confidence of a man who's never had his authority questioned. Not successfully, anyway. She watches him process the morning's early arrivals with the efficiency of someone who's turned cruelty into an art form. A young public defender approaches nervously, clutching a motion that's clearly been rewritten multiple times. "Excuse me, Mr. Garrison," the young man says, his voice already apologetic. "I need to file a continuance motion for State versus Peterson. I was told." Byron doesn't look up from his computer. He holds up one finger, nails bitten down to angry pink stubs, and lets the silence stretch. 10 seconds. 20. The public defender shifts his weight, confusion and embarrassment warring on his face. Essence notes the power play. Classic dominance establishment. Make them wait. Make them grateful when you finally acknowledge their existence. When Byron finally lifts his head, his expression suggests the young lawyer has personally ruined his morning. "Peterson, right, you're late. It's 7:52. The filing deadline." "The filing deadline," Byron cuts him off with the precision of a knife, "is 9 a.m. The my time is valuable deadline was yesterday. You public defenders think you can just wander in whenever you feel like it and dump your paperwork on my desk." He snatches the papers with unnecessary force. "I've got real judges to manage here." The public defender's face burns red. "Thank you, sir. I appreciate—" "Go wait." Byron's dismissal is final. "I'll get to it when I get to it. And fix your tie. This is a courthouse, not some street corner." Essence watches the young man retreat, fingers fumbling with his collar, and files the interaction away. She's been here 47 minutes, and she's already cataloged 17 separate instances of what a federal prosecutor would classify as creating a hostile environment. Byron Garrison isn't just rude. He's systematically cruel, and that cruelty follows predictable patterns, which suggests it's been reinforced over time. The courthouse begins to fill with the 8 a.m. wave. These are the people who have to be here, the ones clutching pieces of paper like lifelines. They form an uncertain line in front of Byron's window, and Essence has a perfect view of his performance. To a white man in an expensive suit, "Good morning, Mr. Donovan. Right away, sir. How can I help you today?" To a Hispanic woman holding a crying baby, "English. I don't speak whatever that is." Next, to a young black man asking about paying a fine, "Do I look like a cashier to you? Go to the basement and tuck your shirt in. This is a courthouse, not a nightclub." Each interaction follows the same script. Deference to those who look like they belong, contempt for those who don't. Byron has turned prejudice into a streamlined operation. But then, something happens that makes Essence sit up straighter. The white man in the expensive suit, the one Byron called Mr. Donovan, doesn't leave after his transaction. Instead, he circles back around the side of the glass booth to a small door marked Clerk's office, staff only. He gives a specific knock, 3 quick raps followed by 2 slow ones. The door opens immediately. Byron himself appears, not the same man who was just sneering at defendants, but someone eager, almost servile. His voice drops to a whisper, but sound carries in the marble lobby. "Sterling, you're early?" Sterling Ashworth, Essence realizes, recognizing him now from state bar publications. High-end defense attorney, the kind who specializes in making problems disappear for people who can afford to make them disappear. "Got a client with a 9:30 arraignment," Sterling murmurs, slipping his hand inside his jacket. "You have that thing we discussed?" Byron's smile is grease and conspiracy. "The AM docket assignment? Right here." He passes Sterling a folded piece of paper, quick and practiced. Sterling takes it and just as smoothly passes Byron an envelope. White, business-sized, but thick. Too thick for a letter. Essence feels her blood turn to ice water. A docket assignment. Defense attorneys can pull those online. Public record. Unless this isn't a standard assignment. Unless Byron is giving Sterling advance notice of which judge his case will be randomly assigned to, letting him prep for a friendly judge or file last-minute motions if he draws a hostile one. She's watching the judicial lottery get rigged in real time. Byron pockets the envelope without looking at it. "Pleasure doing business." "Always, Byron. You take care now." Sterling strolls out of the courthouse like he owns it, which in a sense, he just proved he does. Essence sits perfectly still, mind racing. One observation could be explained away, but her prosecutor instincts are screaming that what she just witnessed wasn't an isolated incident. Byron Garrison has turned the courthouse into his personal casino and Sterling Ashworth just placed a bet. She waits. Experience has taught her that corruption, like any addiction, escalates. If Byron is selling judicial assignments, he's not going to stop at 1 transaction per morning. If you think courthouse corruption is shocking, wait until you see what happens when the system tries to silence a federal judge. This story is about to get explosive. Keep watching because the evidence she's about to present will change everything you thought you knew about justice. 16 minutes later, her patience is rewarded in the worst possible way. A woman bursts through the courthouse doors, moving with the frantic energy of someone running out of time. She's in her 30s, hair escaping from a ponytail, clutching a thick stack of papers to her chest like armor. Her eyes are red-rimmed, and she has that hollow look of someone who hasn't slept in days. She runs straight to Byron's window, cutting the line of 5 people waiting. "Please," she gasps, pressing her papers against the bulletproof glass. "Please, I have to file this. It's an emergency restraining order. He found my sister's address. He said he's coming tonight. Please, I have to file it before my hearing at 9:30. The construction worker she just cut in front of turns around, irritated. "Hey lady, back of the line." "I can't," she sobs, her voice breaking. "Please, I don't have time. Please." Byron looks at her with the expression of someone examining something unpleasant on the bottom of his shoe. "First, you don't cut my line. Second, all TRO and ex parte motions had to be filed by 8 a.m. to be heard this morning. You're late." He points to the clock on the wall. "It's 8:14. You'll have to file it for tomorrow's docket." "Tomorrow?" The word comes out as a scream of pure terror. "He could kill me by tomorrow. I don't have until tomorrow. It's right here, all filled out. Can't you just stamp it, please?" 8:14, Byron repeats, pointing to the clock with bureaucratic satisfaction. "The computer locks the 8 a.m. filings. My hands are tied. It's the system." The woman collapses against the glass, sliding down until she's sitting on the floor, her sobs echoing off the marble walls. "No, no, no. You don't understand." Essence watches Byron observe the woman's breakdown with the detachment of someone watching rain. This is the moment. The test. What he does next will tell her everything she needs to know about the depth of corruption in this courthouse. Byron sighs, the theatrical sigh of a man being imposed upon by unreasonable people. He comes out from behind his fortress, his voice dropping to what he probably thinks is a conspiratorial whisper. "Look, get up. You're making a scene." He helps her to her feet, his manner suddenly helpful in a way that makes Essence's skin crawl. "Look, I might be able to help you. The system is flexible sometimes, but late filing override requires a fee. A significant administrative fee for the, paperwork hassle." Hope flares in the woman's eyes alongside the desperation. "A fee? I'll pay it. How much?" Byron glances around the lobby, his eyes passing over Essence as if she's part of the furniture. "The emergency override fee is $200. Cash." Essence watches the woman's face crumble. "200? I only have 150. It's all I have until my paycheck Friday." Byron considers this with the air of a man doing someone an enormous favor. 150 will have to do, as if he's making a tremendous sacrifice. "Give it to me." The woman fumbles in her purse with hands that shake so badly she can barely open her wallet. She pulls out a pathetic collection of crumpled bills. A 50, 4 20s, and 5 1s. Everything she has in the world. Byron takes the money without ceremony, palms it with practiced efficiency, then takes her paperwork back to his station. Essence watches him sit at his computer, type for a moment, then open a drawer and pull out a manual date and timestamp. He adjusts the dials, rolls them back, stamps the papers. Received 7:58 a.m. He's backdated a legal filing in exchange for a cash bribe. He's extorting a domestic violence victim, and he's done it so smoothly, so casually that Essence realizes this isn't the first time. This is a system. Byron returns and hands the papers back to the woman. "There, stamped. You're on the 9:30 docket. Courtroom 2A. Now get out of my sight." The woman, crying with relief now, thanks him profusely and runs toward the elevators. Byron goes back to his desk, slides the $150 into the same drawer where he put Sterling's envelope, and calls next, as if he's just performed a routine administrative function. Essence closes her eyes and breathes slowly through her nose. The rage she feels is so pure, so cold, it's almost serene. This isn't just corruption. This is systematic predation. Byron Garrison has turned the courthouse into his personal hunting ground, and he's feeding on the most vulnerable people who pass through its doors. Protecting yourself from legal corruption starts with documentation. Legal Shield gives you 24/7 access to attorneys who can review contracts, explain your rights, and ensure you're never taken advantage of by the system. With identity theft protection and legal consultation for just $29.95 a month, you'll have professional legal guidance when you need it most. Visit LegalShield.com and use code JUSTICE for your first month free. For the next 30 minutes, Essence doesn't move. She catalogs every interaction, every sneer, every casual cruelty. She watches Byron lose a filing for a low-income housing advocate, forcing a delay that will likely result in evictions. She watches him find that same filing immediately when a corporate lawyer brings him a box of expensive pastries. At 8:45 a.m., a tall man in a courthouse security uniform enters through the side doors. His badge reads Deputy Marshal K. Richmond, and he has the weathered face of someone who's seen everything and stopped being surprised by any of it. He nods at Byron with familiar ease. "Morning, Byron. Usual chaos?" "You know it, Knox." Byron's demeanor shifts again, warm and collaborative. "The dregs are out in force today. Judge Cross would have had half of them in holding for contempt by now. I don't know about this new one they're sending us." Knox sips from a coffee cup that's probably his third of the morning. "Vaughn, right? From out of state?" "That's the one," Byron says, lowering his voice, but not enough. Essence hears every word. "Some affirmative action hire, I'm sure. Probably won't know the motion to compel from a motion to dismiss. We'll have to train another one from scratch. It's exhausting." Essence files this away with everything else. Affirmative action hire. Another assumption. Another casual display of the prejudice that drives this system. Knox finishes his coffee and tosses the cup in a wastebasket that's clearly meant for that purpose. "Well, time to open the doors to the circus. You ready for 3B? "As ready as I'll ever be," Byron sighs dramatically. Knox walks to courtroom 3B, which opens directly off the main lobby, and unlocks heavy wooden doors. The first few lawyers and citizens waiting for the 9 a.m. docket begin to trickle in, clutching their papers and their hopes. Byron gathers a stack of files from his station, his face settling back into its mask of sour authority. This is his moment, the transition from backstage corruption to front-stage performance. He's about to take his show into the courtroom, where he'll continue his reign as the unofficial king of Central Valley Superior Court. This is the moment Essence Whitmore stands up. The movement draws Byron's attention immediately. After 90 minutes of perfect stillness, her sudden motion seems almost violent. "Hey, you!" Byron's voice carries his characteristic blend of irritation and automatic authority. "I told you, defendant area is where you were sitting. Court's about to start. Essence zips her satchel with deliberate precision. She adjusts the collar of her blazer. She walks, not towards the courtroom where defendants belong, but directly toward the judges and staff-only door beside Byron's station, the same door Sterling used earlier. "Hey!" Byron's voice jumps an octave. "That door is not for the public. Are you deaf? I told you to stay on the bench." Essence ignores him completely. She reaches the door and stops in front of a small black card reader mounted on the wall. Byron is on his feet now, his voice rising to a near shriek. "I will have you held in contempt of court. You can't just—" Essence reaches into her blazer pocket and withdraws a simple white plastic key card. It's temporary courthouse access, the kind issued by state judicial administration pending permanent credentials. She doesn't look at Byron. She doesn't acknowledge his increasingly frantic protests. She simply holds the card up to the reader and waits. There's a quiet beep. The light on the reader flashes from red to green. Byron's voice dies in his throat, choked off by a sharp intake of breath that sounds like someone being punched in the stomach. The lobby goes completely silent. The only sound is the heavy click of the electronic lock disengaging. Essence pushes the door open and pauses in the doorway. She turns her head slowly, deliberately, until her eyes meet Byron's. His face has gone the color of old milk. His mouth is open, but no sound is coming out. When she speaks, her voice is quiet, but it carries an unmistakable ring of absolute authority. It's not a voice that requests. It commands. "Mr. Garrison." The title hangs in the air like a blade. Byron's hands, which had been gesturing wildly, now hang limp at his sides. It is 8:50 a.m. Court convenes in 10 minutes. In that time, I expect 3 things. Byron's mouth moves, but nothing comes out. First, Essence continues with surgical precision, you will retrieve the keys to Judicial Chambers 3B from wherever you have stored them. Second, you will obtain my welcome packet from the court administrator's office. I'm sure Mr. Hayes will be very interested to hear about my reception this morning. The young public defender, who has been lingering near the door to watch this exchange, is desperately trying to hide his smile behind a case file. And third, Essence says, her eyes boring into Byron's terrified face, you will bring me a cup of black coffee. You will place all 3 items on the bench in courtroom 3B. You will then return to your station and prepare for roll call. She lets the orders hang in the air. Each word lands like a gavel strike. Your Honor, Byron stammers, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't recognize you. You thought, Essence cuts him off with the precision of a scalpel, that I was a defendant. You thought I was part of the public. You thought I didn't look like a judge. Her voice doesn't rise, but somehow seems to fill the entire lobby. What you failed to think, Mr. Garrison, is that every person who walks into this courthouse deserves basic human dignity. Your assumptions are not my problem, but they are, as of this moment, your problem. She steps through the doorway. The heavy door begins to swing shut behind her. 10 minutes, Mr. Garrison. Don't be late. It sets a bad example. The door clicks closed with the finality of a coffin lid. Byron Garrison stands frozen for a full 5 seconds, his face a mask of dawning horror. The blood has drained from his head so fast he has to grip his desk to stay upright. The humiliation is total and complete. The power dynamic of the Central Valley Superior Court has just been inverted in front of everyone. Then panic takes over. He flies into motion, grabbing keys, fumbling through drawers, his hands shaking so badly he can barely function. He's no longer a king. He's a terrified servant running errands for a new master. And the worst part, the part that's making his heart hammer against his ribs like a caged bird, isn't just the humiliation. It's the memory. Sterling's envelope. The woman with the restraining order. The backdated timestamp. How long had that woman, that judge, been sitting on that bench? What exactly had she seen? The judicial chambers of Central Valley Superior Court smell of old leather and lemon polish, with undertones of the kind of authority that doesn't need to announce itself. Essence. Whitmore stands in the center of the room, taking inventory of her new domain with the methodical attention of someone who misses nothing. Judge Porter, her predecessor, left no personal items behind. The office is a blank slate, which suits her purposes perfectly. She moves to the tall wooden wardrobe against the far wall and retrieves the judicial robe hanging inside. The heavy black fabric settles over her shoulders like armor, familiar weight that transforms her from observer to authority. She is not, despite Byron Garrison's assumptions, an affirmative action hire stumbling into a position she doesn't deserve. She is a Harvard Law graduate, a former assistant United States attorney, and a federal prosecutor who spent 12 years dismantling organized crime operations across 3 states. She could have remained in federal court, could have taken the path toward an eventual Supreme Court nomination. Instead, she requested a transfer to this forgotten courthouse in this forgotten corner of California. She came here for one reason, and that reason has nothing to do with advancing her career. She came here because Grace Whitmore died in this judicial district. Grace, her younger sister by 3 years, a social worker who believed the system could protect people if you just followed the right procedures, filled out the right forms, trusted the right authorities. Grace, who filed for an emergency restraining order against her ex-husband on a Tuesday morning and was told she'd have to wait until Thursday for a hearing. Grace, who begged for expedited processing and was told the emergency fee was $200, money she didn't have. Grace, who was found dead in her apartment Wednesday night, beaten to death with a baseball bat by the man the courts had failed to restrain. The case file made for interesting reading. Delayed processing due to administrative backlog. Emergency fee requirements that don't exist in California Family Code. A system that had failed her sister so completely, so systematically, that Essence knew it wasn't incompetence, it was corruption. At exactly 9 a.m., she hears Deputy Marshal Knox Richmond's voice boom from the courtroom. All rise. The Central Valley Superior Court, Part 3B, is now in session. The Honorable Judge Essence Whitmore presiding. Essence takes a breath, opens the door, and steps into her courtroom. The space is medium-sized and packed. Defense attorneys fill the jury box and front rows. A mix of overwhelmed public defenders and smug private counsel. Defendants and their families cluster in the back, emanating that particular combination of anxiety and resignation that courtrooms seem to breed. At the clerk station to her right stands Byron Garrison, and he looks like he's aged 10 years in the past 15 minutes. His face is pale and slick with sweat. The keys to her chambers, her welcome packet, and a styrofoam cup of coffee are placed precisely where she ordered them on the corner of her bench. Essence takes her seat. The room sits. The scraping of chairs echoes off hard surfaces. She opens the first file and speaks into the microphone, her voice crisp and carrying easily to every corner of the courtroom. Good morning. I am Judge Whitmore. I will be handling this calendar moving forward. I have my own set of rules, and they are simple. Be on time, be prepared, and be respectful. To me, to the court, and to each other. We will conduct the business of the people with integrity and efficiency. Is that understood? A murmur of, "Yes, Your Honor," ripples through the assembled lawyers. Excellent. She looks down at the docket, and there it is. First case of the day. First up, docket number 901, State versus Peterson. Counsel, please approach. The young public defender from the lobby walks forward, his eyes still wide with something between amazement and terror. Behind him, the assistant district attorney, a sharp woman in a navy blue suit, rises from her chair. Your Honor, and the public defender begins, his voice stronger now than it was when Byron was intimidating him. I filed a motion for continuance this morning. I understand the state opposes. We do, Your Honor, the prosecutor confirms. The victim has flown in from out of state twice for this trial. We are ready to proceed. Essence looks back at the defense attorney. Counselor, your grounds for continuance? My client's alibi witness was just located. She lives in rural Nevada and needs time to arrange transportation and accommodations. Without her testimony, motion granted, Essence says. Both attorneys blink in surprise. Your Honor, the prosecutor tries again. The inconvenience to the state. Motion granted, Counselor, Essence repeats, her eyes on the file. The right to present a full defense is constitutional. The inconvenience to the state is logistical. We will find a new trial date. She looks at Byron. Mr. Garrison, please schedule this matter for 6 weeks from today. Coordinate with both counsel for availability. Byron fumbles with his computer, his hands shaking so badly he can barely type. The young public defender stares at Essence like he's witnessing a miracle. He's just won a motion he was certain to lose, and he's won it from a judge who 30 minutes ago was being dragged around the lobby like a common criminal. The shift in the courtroom's atmosphere is subtle but unmistakable. This judge, whatever else she might be, doesn't play games. Essence works through the next 5 cases with rapid surgical efficiency. She denies a routine delay motion from a high-priced attorney who clearly expected automatic approval. She grants a hardship request from a defendant who can barely afford bus fare to court. The lawyers are learning quickly. This judge does not suffer fools, does not play favorites, and does not waste time. Then she reaches the case that brought her here. Next, a request for ex parte temporary restraining order. Sullivan versus Sullivan. The woman from the lobby, Grace Sullivan, sits in the front row, still trembling but now with hope instead of terror. She approaches the bench when Essence calls her name. Miss Sullivan, I have reviewed your petition. I find your claims credible and the threat imminent. The temporary restraining order is granted, effective immediately." Grace Sullivan bursts into tears of relief. "Thank you, Your Honor. Oh God, thank you." "Deputy Richmond," Essence continues, "please escort Miss Sullivan to the TRO office to have the order served and ensure she has safe transport from this building." "Yes, Your Honor," Knox says, moving immediately. "And Mr. Garrison," Essence says, her voice suddenly acquiring a sharp edge that makes everyone in the courtroom go still. Byron flinches as if she's slapped him. "Yes, Your Honor. Please bring me the original filing of Sullivan versus Sullivan, the physical document you stamped this morning." The air in the courtroom changes. This is not a normal request. Lawyers exchange glances. Court reporters lean forward. Everyone senses that something significant is about to happen. "Your Honor," Byron stammers, "the file is... it's right here in the system." "I am not asking about the system, Mr. Garrison. I am asking for the physical paper you stamped this morning. Retrieve it now." Byron's face goes ashen. This is a direct, impossible to misunderstand order from a sitting judge in open court. He has no choice but to comply. He walks with leaden feet back to his office behind the courtroom, and the entire space holds its breath while they wait. He returns a moment later with the file, his hand shaking as he passes it up to Essence. She examines it carefully, noting the smudged red ink stamp in the corner. "Received, 7:58 a.m. Then she looks up at the large institutional clock on the courtroom wall, which reads 9:42 a.m. "Mr. Garrison," she says, her voice dangerously quiet, "I personally observed you accept this filing from Miss Sullivan. I personally observed you stamp it." The courtroom is so silent that the air conditioning sounds like a roar. "And my observation is that this filing was received by you at approximately 8:15 a.m., not 7:58 a.m. The courtroom erupts in hushed whispers. Lawyers' eyes go wide. This is an accusation of backdating, tampering with court records, fraud, cardinal sins in the legal profession. "Your Honor, there must be... the clock, my stamp." Byron is dissolving in front of everyone. "There is indeed a mistake," Essence says, her voice like tempered steel. "But it is not mine." She pauses, letting the weight of her words settle. "I am also curious, Mr. Garrison, about the emergency override fee you charged Miss Sullivan. The $150 in cash. I would like to know what statute or county ordinance authorizes that specific fee." Byron makes a small, strangled sound and grips the clerk's station to keep from falling. "Your Honor," Grace Sullivan says from the gallery, her voice shaking but determined. "He said it was required. For emergency processing, I had to pay or wait until tomorrow." Essence nods gravely. "Miss Sullivan, emergency restraining orders are processed free of charge under California Family Code Section 6218. There is no emergency fee. There never has been." The implications hit the courtroom like a physical force. Byron Garrison has been systematically extorting domestic violence victims, charging illegal fees to desperate people who had no choice but to pay. But Essence isn't finished. "Furthermore," she says, raising her voice to address the entire courtroom, "we are going to have a detailed discussion about docket assignments, specifically the pre-assignment consultation you had this morning with a Mr. Sterling Ashworth." In the back of the courtroom, Sterling Ashworth, who had sauntered in confidently 20 minutes ago to handle his 9:30 case, freezes. His expression shifts from smug entitlement to dawning horror as he realizes what's happening. Essence leans forward, her eyes locked on Byron's terrified face. "Mr. Garrison, I am ordering an immediate recess. I am also ordering Deputy Richmond to secure your desk, your computer, and all your personal effects. You are not to touch anything. We will be having an immediate meeting with the presiding judge and the district attorney's office." She turns to Knox. "Deputy Richmond, please escort Mr. Garrison to my chambers." "And Deputy Richmond?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Contact the district attorney. Tell him to send his best investigator from the Public Integrity Unit, immediately, and ensure that Mr. Sterling Ashworth does not leave this courthouse. I believe he is a material witness to multiple felonies." Knox straightens, understanding immediately that he's just been given the most important assignment of his career. "Yes, Your Honor." "All rise," he booms, his voice carrying new authority. Essence stands and sweeps from the bench, leaving behind a courtroom in stunned, chaotic silence. Byron Garrison lets out a low wail and sinks into his chair, his face in his hands. Sterling Ashworth is frantically checking his phone, probably calling every contact he has in law enforcement, trying to find someone who can make this nightmare disappear. But the gavel has already fallen, not on a defendant but on the system itself, and Judge Essence Whitmore is just getting started. The chaos in Essence's chambers has the controlled intensity of a controlled demolition. Deputy Marshal Knox Richmond stands by the door with Byron Garrison, who sits slumped in a guest chair like a deflated balloon. Essence is on the phone, not with the presiding judge yet, but with Court Administrator Philip Hayes. "Philip, this is Judge Whitmore." "Yes, the new 3B appointment." Her voice carries the controlled fury of someone who has spent years prosecuting corruption and recognizes it when she sees it. "No, I haven't had a chance to review the welcome packet, and that's precisely why I'm calling." She watches Byron over her desk, noting how he flinches every time she speaks. "I'm calling to inform you that I have just placed your head clerk, Byron Garrison, on administrative suspension, effective immediately." The voice on the other end explodes into protests and procedure citation. "With all due respect, Philip," Essence's voice cuts through the bureaucratic noise like a blade, "I don't care about protocol. I'm telling you what I witnessed. I have personally observed Mr. Garrison commit, by my count, at least 3 separate felonies: bribery, extortion, and tampering with court records. In front of witnesses, on video." She hangs up without waiting for a response. The pain in her eyes when she thinks about her sister hits different when you realize she's been carrying this weight while investigating the very system that failed her family. Hit that like button if you believe justice delayed shouldn't mean justice denied. Byron finally finds his voice, though it comes out as barely a whisper. "Your Honor, please. It was a mistake, a misunderstanding. I'll pay the money back." Essence turns to face him fully, her expression perfectly neutral. "Pay what money back, Mr. Garrison? The $150 you extorted from a domestic violence victim, or the money Mr. Ashworth gave you in the white envelope? How many envelopes have there been? How long has this been your personal profit center?" I don't know what you're talking about." Byron tries one last desperate denial. "You accepted a thick white envelope from Sterling Ashworth at approximately 8:05 a.m. in exchange for a folded piece of paper." Essence recites with prosecutorial precision. "You then placed that envelope in the top left drawer of your desk. I observed this transaction from the defendant bench, where you had forcibly seated me." Her voice remains perfectly level. "I am willing to stake my entire judicial pension on the belief that when investigators open that drawer, they will find cash. Am I wrong?" Byron's face crumples. He knows he's caught, knows that the precision of her observation makes denial impossible. The door opens and presiding Judge Hadley Cross sweeps in, his white hair wild and his face flushed with indignation. At 69, he's used to being the most powerful person in any room he enters, and this unprecedented disruption of his courthouse clearly has him rattled. "Whitmore!" he booms before the door is fully closed. "What in God's name is the meaning of this? You can't just detain court employees. You've thrown the entire morning docket into chaos. There are procedures, protocols." "Judge Cross," Essence says, standing. She's a full foot shorter than him, but somehow seems to occupy more space. "Please sit down." Something in her tone, some note of absolute authority, brings him up short. "Mr. Garrison," she continues, gesturing to the broken man in the chair, "is a criminal. I caught him red-handed, selling docket assignments and extorting victims. This is not hyperbole. This is not a misunderstanding. This is felony corruption conducted in plain sight." Judge Cross stops mid-bluster, his mouth hanging open. "Byron? Our Byron? He's been here for 24 years. That's a libelous accusation." "Is it?" Essence asks quietly. She walks to Knox. "Deputy Richmond, you secured his workspace?" "Yes, Your Honor. Nothing in or out per your instructions." "Excellent. Judge Cross, would you accompany me on a brief field trip?" Without waiting for an answer, Essence strides out of her chambers, past the roiling chaos of the courthouse hallway where word of the morning's events has spread like wildfire. Cross and Richmond follow, with Byron shuffling behind them like a man walking to his execution. The lobby is packed now, buzzing with the electricity of people who sense that something momentous is happening but don't quite understand what. Lawyers cluster in small groups, whispering. Court staff peer out from their offices. Everyone knows the routine of this courthouse has been shattered, but no one knows what's replacing it. Essence ignores them all. She walks behind the clerk's counter with the confidence of someone who belongs there and stops at Byron's desk. "The top left drawer, Mr. Garrison," she says. "Please open it." Byron's hands shake so badly he can barely use his key. When the drawer slides open, the evidence is right where Essence said it would be. 2 envelopes sit beneath a stack of sticky notes and paper clips. One is the thick white envelope from Sterling Ashworth. The other is a crumpled mess of bills. The $150 from Grace Sullivan. Judge Cross lets out a sound like a deflating tire. "Oh, Byron, no." Using a pen to avoid contaminating evidence, Essence indicates the white envelope. This one contains Mr. Ashworth's payment for advance docket information. This practice corrupts the random assignment process that ensures judicial fairness. She points to the cash. And this is money extorted from a domestic violence victim who was told she had to pay an emergency fee that doesn't exist in California law. Judge Cross stares at the evidence with the expression of someone watching his world collapse. Byron, why? Why would you do this? Byron finally breaks completely. 24 years of careful corruption, of building his little empire through small cruelties and systematic abuse, crumbles in a single moment of honest confession. Because they don't pay me enough, he screams, his voice cracking with years of accumulated resentment. 24 years in this place? 24 years of dealing with this trash! He gestures wildly at the lobby full of people seeking justice. 24 years of cleaning up judges' mistakes, of being yelled at, of being treated like a servant. His confession pours out like poison from an infected wound. Sterling, he was grateful. He said I deserved more. That woman, she was late. There are rules. There are procedures. I maintain order in this chaos. The rules you broke, Essence says, her voice like ice cutting through his hysteria. The procedures you corrupted. The order you turned into tyranny. At that moment, two men in dark suits appear at the lobby entrance. They flash badges at the gathered crowd and make their way directly to the clerk's station. District Attorney's Office, Public Integrity Unit, the lead investigator announces. We received a call from Judge Whitmore. That's me, Essence says, stepping forward. Gentlemen, meet your primary suspect. She indicates Byron, who looks like he might vomit. And this, she gestures to the open drawer, is your primary evidence. I believe you'll find Mr. Garrison has been operating a pay-to-play scheme. Based on the sophistication of his operation, I suspect it's been ongoing for years. The investigator's eyes light up. This isn't a case they'll have to build from scratch. It's a gift-wrapped conviction. Your co-conspirator, Mr. Sterling Ashworth, is being detained in my courtroom, Essence continues. I'd suggest starting with him. In my experience, men like Ashworth fold quickly when faced with actual consequences. As the investigators begin their formal process, reading Byron his rights and photographing the evidence, Essence turns to Judge Cross. His face has aged 10 years in the past hour. This is what happens, Judge Cross, when we get comfortable. When we let people like Byron run our system because it's convenient for us. This isn't just his failure. It's institutional failure. It's our failure. Cross, who has been a judge for 22 years and thought he understood his courthouse, looks around the lobby as if seeing it for the first time. He sees the desperate faces, the confusion, the fear, and he sees with horrible clarity how that fear has been systematically exploited. You're right, he says, his voice heavy with the weight of recognition. What do you need? I need a new clerk, Essence says immediately. Someone temporary, immediately, who understands that their job is to serve the public, not to rule over it. And I need a complete audit of every case Byron and Sterling have touched together. Every delayed filing, every expedited motion, every convenient scheduling conflict. She looks back at Byron, who is now being handcuffed while tourists and court visitors stare in shock. This is just the beginning. Men like Byron don't operate in isolation. They need enablers, protectors, people who look the other way. We're going to find every single one of them. The arrest of Byron Garrison sends seismic shockwaves through the courthouse ecosystem. He wasn't just an employee. He was an institution. The man who made the trains run on time, who knew where every body was buried, who controlled access to justice itself. Watching him led away in handcuffs, still screaming about his 24 years of service, was like watching the courthouse's foundation crack. Court cases can financially devastate families overnight. MetLife Legal Insurance provides coverage for legal fees, court costs, and attorney consultations starting at just $19 a month. Whether you're facing workplace discrimination or need family law assistance, you're covered. Don't let legal costs prevent you from seeking justice. Visit metlife.com/legal and get protected today. But Essence is far from finished. While Byron is being processed at the county jail, she has Sterling Ashworth brought to her chambers. He enters not in handcuffs but flanked by two very large bailiffs and accompanied by his own attorney, a sharp-dressed man named Marcus Webb, who apparently keeps his phone on speed dial for emergencies exactly like this one. The arrogance that characterized Sterling's morning has evaporated, replaced by a wackly, terrified pallor that makes him look older than his 44 years. Judge Whitmore, his attorney begins before anyone is seated. My client is here voluntarily to assist with— Save it, Mr. Webb, Essence cuts him off, settling behind her desk with the calm authority of someone who has done this dance many times before. Your client isn't here voluntarily. He's here because I ordered him detained as a material witness to bribery of a court official. However, in the past hour, Mr. Garrison has been very cooperative with investigators, and material witness is being upgraded to co-conspirator. Sterling's face goes white as paper. It was a gift, he stammers, his usual smooth delivery completely gone. Byron helps me with scheduling. It's like tipping a barista. Essence actually laughs, a cold, sharp sound that seems to strip the warmth from the room. A tip, Mr. Ashworth? You are an officer of the court. You know, just as I know, that what you did was bribe a public official to gain an unfair advantage in the judicial assignment process. You weren't tipping Byron. You were paying him to stack the deck, to corrupt the random assignment system that ensures fair trials. She leans forward, her prosecutor instincts fully engaged now. So, here's what's going to happen. The DA's investigators are in the building right now. In approximately 10 minutes, they're going to come through that door and arrest you. You'll be processed, your bail will be set at a level that will make your trust fund weep, and the state bar will be notified before you're released. Your license will be suspended by close of business today. This is outrageous. Webb starts. No, Essence corrects him with surgical precision. This is accountability. However, I am a practical woman. Byron's corruption network is my primary concern. You, Mr. Ashworth, are just a symptom. She pauses, watching Sterling's face. So you have one choice. You can cooperate fully. You can detail every bribe, every case you paid to have steered, every piece of confidential information you purchased. You will wear a wire if necessary, and you will help investigators map the full extent of this corruption. Sterling's eyes dart to his attorney, silently begging for salvation. Or, Essence continues relentlessly, you can play the tough guy with Mr. Webb here, and I will personally recommend to the district attorney that you be charged to the fullest extent of the law on every count. Your legal career is over, Mr. Ashworth. The only question remaining is whether you spend the next decade in a federal facility. Webb, recognizing the brick wall his client has run into, loosens his tie and sighs. You should listen to the judge, Sterling. The fight goes out of Sterling completely. He collapses into his chair and begins to confess. What comes out is worse than Essence had imagined, and she'd imagined quite a bit. For 5 years, Sterling has been paying Byron for various services. It started small, $50 to lose a filing for 24 hours to give him more prep time. It escalated to $500 to guarantee his case landed in front of Judge Morrison, a notoriously lenient part-timer who'd never met a rich defendant he couldn't find reasonable doubt for. But the real revelation, the one that makes Essence feel physically sick, concerns the morning's transaction. The folded paper Byron had given Sterling wasn't a docket assignment at all. It was a sealed witness list. Sterling's 9:30 arraignment was for a high-profile felony assault case. His client was Marcus Devlin, a wealthy contractor with ties to organized crime, accused of beating a city inspector who'd been asking too many questions about building permits. The paper Byron had sold him contained the name and home address of the prosecution's star witness, the victim's sister, who had been in protective hiding since agreeing to testify. Byron hadn't just been selling scheduling favors. He had been selling people, selling their safety, their locations, their lives for cash. Essence feels her blood run cold. This isn't just corruption anymore. This is conspiracy. This is witness tampering. This is the kind of systematic violation that destroys lives and gets people killed. She immediately calls Knox back into the chambers. Forget everything else. I need an emergency protective detail dispatched to this address immediately, she says, reading from Sterling's confession notes. The witness in State versus Devlin has been compromised. Her location is known to dangerous people. The revelation transforms everything. Byron's network isn't just about money anymore. It's about life and death. When confronted with this information, with the fact that his greed had put an innocent woman in mortal danger, even Byron's remaining defenses crumble completely. The investigators, working with information Sterling provided, find a client list in a locked file cabinet. Byron has been running a full-service corruption operation. Sterling was just one of 6 attorneys paying for various services: advanced docket information, lost files, expedited processing, and in some cases, confidential witness information that could get people killed. The investigators also find Byron's ledger. He's been meticulous about record keeping, probably for tax purposes, documenting 5 years of systematic corruption. Dates, amounts, services provided. His 24 years of service were actually 24 years of running a criminal enterprise built on the suffering of the most vulnerable people in the system. Byron isn't just fired. He's held without bail as both a flight risk and a danger to the community. His entire life's work, his identity as the king of the courthouse, is revealed to be nothing more than organized crime with a government job. And it all began to unravel because he assumed a black woman in a business suit couldn't possibly be his new boss. You're about to witness the most satisfying courthouse takedown ever recorded. But first, what do you think Byron's reaction will be when he realizes who he just physically assaulted? Drop your predictions in the comments because this reveal is absolutely legendary. The Central Valley Superior Court doesn't recover quickly from the Byron Garrison scandal. The ripple effects tear through the entire judicial district like a controlled explosion, exposing corruption networks that have been operating in plain sight for years. Essence, working 18-hour days with investigators from 3 different agencies, discovers that Byron's operation was just one node in a larger web. The audit of his cases reveals systematic delays in domestic violence proceedings, mysteriously expedited motions for wealthy defendants, and a pattern of lost files that always seem to benefit the same group of attorneys. Sterling Ashworth, true to form, provides everything the investigators need in exchange for leniency. His cooperation takes down 3 other attorneys and permanently damages the careers of 2 more. His wealthy client, Marcus Devlin, seeing his case imploding around him, takes a plea deal rather than face trial with his witness protection scheme exposed. The witness, thankfully, is secured by law enforcement just hours before Devlin's associates would have reached her. Her safety becomes a federal matter, handled by marshals who don't take bribes and don't sell information to the highest bidder. But Essence's work is far from over. With Byron's network dismantled, she turns her attention to the institutional reforms necessary to ensure this kind of systematic corruption can't take root again. Her first major decision is to promote Caleb Harper, the young public defender who'd been Byron's first victim of the morning. Caleb is stunned by the offer, but Essence sees something in him that Byron had tried to crush: integrity under pressure. "Mr. Harper," she tells him in her chambers, "I'm not offering you this position because you're the best attorney in the building. I'm offering it because when Byron was humiliating you, you remained respectful. When he was abusing his power, you followed proper procedures. This office doesn't need another tyrant. It needs a public servant." Caleb accepts, and his first official act is to hang a new sign at the clerk's window, printed in both English and Spanish. "We are here to help. Your dignity is our priority." The change in atmosphere is immediate and dramatic. Essence's courtroom becomes known throughout the legal community as a place where justice is actually possible. She treats public defenders with the same respect as corporate attorneys. She listens to defendants' stories instead of rushing through calendars. She explains her rulings in language people can understand. Most importantly, she creates a culture where Byron's casual cruelties are not just unwelcome but impossible. 3 months later, Essence is walking through the courthouse lobby at the end of a long day when she witnesses an exchange that tells her everything she needs to know about how far they've come. A young black woman, clearly nervous, approaches Caleb at the clerk's window. She's dressed in a simple suit and carries herself like a first-year associate from a small firm, someone still learning the rhythms of courthouse practice. "I'm sorry," she says hesitantly, "but I think I filled out this motion for substitution of counsel incorrectly. The instructions online were confusing, and I don't want to file the wrong thing." Under Byron's regime, this woman would have been sneered at, dismissed, made to feel small and stupid for not knowing arcane procedures. Instead, Caleb comes around from behind the glass partition and stands beside her, patient and helpful. "No need to apologize," he says kindly. "These forms are confusing even for experienced attorneys. Let me show you exactly what needs to go where." He points to specific lines on the document. "The motion itself needs the original case number here, but the proposed order needs the attorney's bar number here. It's not intuitive, but once you do it a couple times, it becomes routine." The young lawyer looks up at him with profound relief. "Thank you so much. I was worried I'd get it wrong and cause problems for my client." "Everyone gets it wrong the first time," Caleb smiles. "My job is to help you get it right. Welcome to Central Valley, counselor. We're glad you're here." Essence watches the interaction from across the lobby, noting how the young woman straightens up, how the fear leaves her eyes, how she walks away with the kind of confidence that comes from being treated with basic human dignity. The fortress has been breached. The rot has been carved out. And slowly, carefully, they're building something better in its place. True karma isn't just about punishment, though Byron Garrison will spend the next 8 to 12 years in state prison thinking about his choices. True karma is about consequences that ripple outward, changing systems, changing lives, changing the fundamental balance of power. Byron's racist laughter was an investment in his own destruction. He spent 24 years building a corrupt kingdom, but he tore it all down in 90 minutes because he couldn't see past the color of a woman's skin to recognize her authority. He didn't just lose his job, he lost his freedom. And Judge Essence Whitmore didn't just get an apology. She got the chance to rebuild an entire courthouse in the image of justice instead of prejudice. This is what happens when the person you underestimate today turns out to be the person who holds your entire world in their hands tomorrow. Respect isn't a courtesy, it's a necessity. And dignity isn't negotiable, it's the law. At 8:47 a.m., with the courthouse lobby filling rapidly and tensions escalating by the minute, Essence watches the corruption network begin to coordinate in real time. Byron's panic has evolved into something more dangerous: systematic damage control. Knox Richmond returns from his radio call, his expression grim as he approaches Byron's station. Backup's en route. We've got protocols for this type of disruption. What type exactly? Essence asks quietly, her voice carrying just far enough for Knox to hear. He turns to look at her, and for the first time, something flickers in his eyes. Uncertainty. She doesn't look like the typical courthouse troublemaker. Her posture is too controlled, her questions too precise. Ma'am, with respect, you need to remain seated until this situation is resolved, Knox says, but his tone lacks the casual authority he used earlier. Sterling Ashworth chooses this moment to make his entrance, striding through the courthouse doors with the confidence of a man who owns the building. Expensive suit, Italian leather briefcase, the kind of predatory smile that comes from never losing cases you've paid to win. Byron, Sterling calls out cheerfully, bypassing the line entirely. Beautiful morning for justice, wouldn't you say? Byron's relief is palpable. Sterling represents safety, normalcy, the natural order where men like Byron serve and men like Sterling profit. Mr. Ashworth, thank goodness you're here. We have a situation. Sterling's eyes sweep the lobby, taking in the nervous energy the watching crowd and finally settling on Essence. His assessment is swift and dismissive. I see. Another sovereign citizen type? Worse, Byron says, lowering his voice. She's claiming some kind of official business, trying to access restricted areas. I think she might be recording everything. Sterling's expression hardens. Recording means evidence, and evidence means problems for profitable arrangements. He walks over to Essence with the kind of theatrical confidence designed to intimidate. Ma'am, I'm Sterling Ashworth, member of the California State Bar. If you're planning to file any kind of legal action based on today's events, I'd advise you to seek proper counsel first. Frivolous lawsuits carry significant penalties. Essence looks up at him with mild interest. Mr. Ashworth, I'm familiar with Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure regarding frivolous litigation. Are you suggesting that documenting courthouse procedures constitutes harassment? Sterling blinks. Federal rules. She cited the specific rule number from memory. That's not normal for someone off the street. I'm suggesting, he says more carefully, that misunderstandings can escalate unnecessarily. Perhaps we can resolve this with a simple explanation of courthouse policies. I would appreciate that explanation, Essence says. Specifically, I'd like to understand the fee structure for emergency filings. Mr. Garrison mentioned administrative costs. The question hangs in the air like a blade. Sterling's eyes dart to Byron, who has gone pale. They both know she witnessed the Grace Sullivan transaction, but they can't be sure how much she understood or what she recorded. Tanner Blake emerges from the back office, Byron's assistant clerk and heir apparent to the corruption throne. At 33, Tanner has learned that loyalty to Byron means security, advancement, and small but steady profits from looking the other way. Byron, Tanner says loudly enough for everyone to hear. I can't find the Sullivan filing anywhere in the system. Might have been misfiled. His eyes find Essence as he speaks, the message clear. Evidence can disappear as easily as it appeared. Technology problems, Byron explains to Sterling with forced casualness. We're upgrading systems, temporary glitches. Essence reaches into her satchel and withdraws a small digital recorder. The sight of the device sends visible shockwaves through Byron's network. I hope you can recover the filing, she says pleasantly. I'd hate for Miss Sullivan's emergency restraining order to be delayed by technical difficulties. Knox Richmond steps forward, his hand moving instinctively toward his utility belt. Ma'am, recording in a federal building requires special authorization. This is a state courthouse, Deputy Richmond, Essence corrects gently. And California Penal Code Section 632 permits recording of public officials performing their duties in public spaces. Knox freezes. She knows his name, though he never introduced himself. She knows the specific statute governing recordings. She knows the difference between federal and state jurisdiction. Warning bells are going off in his head. Sterling recognizes the danger signals too. This woman isn't just educated, she's legally trained. Probably an attorney, possibly working for some civil rights organization. That makes her exponentially more dangerous than a random troublemaker. Perhaps, Sterling suggests with forced diplomacy, we should involve Judge Cross in this discussion. He can clarify any procedural questions. As if summoned, Judge Hadley Cross emerges from the judicial corridor. At 59, he's a testament to the old boy network that has run this courthouse for decades. Silver-haired, imposing, and accustomed to having his authority respected without question. Byron, what's all this commotion? Judge Cross's voice carries easily across the lobby. Court convenes in 15 minutes. Your Honor, Byron says with obvious relief, we have an individual who's been disruptive. Claims to have official business but won't provide proper identification. Judge Cross approaches Essence with the measured stride of someone used to being the most important person in any room. Ma'am, I'm Judge Cross. I understand you're having some difficulty with courthouse procedures. Essence stands respectfully. Your Honor, I'm Essence Whitmore. I'm here to observe court proceedings as part of an ongoing review. What type of review? Cross asks, his tone sharpening. Judicial efficiency assessment, Essence replies smoothly. Court administration oversight under California Constitution Article 6. Cross's eyes narrow. Article 6 governs the judicial branch, including provisions for administrative oversight. She's citing real law, which means she's either very well prepared or actually knows what she's talking about. I wasn't notified of any efficiency review, Cross says carefully. Some reviews are conducted without advance notice, Essence explains, to ensure authentic operational assessment. The exchange is a careful dance. Essence is providing just enough official-sounding language to establish credibility without making specific claims that could be easily verified or disproven. Cross recognizes he's dealing with someone who knows the system, but he can't determine her actual authority level. Sterling seizes the moment of uncertainty. Your Honor, I believe this individual may be attempting to gather information for potential litigation. She's been recording courthouse staff without consent. With respect, Mr. Ashworth, Essence interjects, public officials have no expectation of privacy while performing their duties. Recording is permitted under the First Amendment and specifically protected by the California Public Records Act. Judge Cross finds himself in an uncomfortable position. If this woman actually has some kind of official oversight authority, treating her poorly could create serious problems. But if she's just a well-informed troublemaker, failing to maintain order in his courthouse makes him look weak. Miss Whitmore, he says finally, I'll need to see proper credentials for any official review. Essence reaches into her blazer and withdraws a leather credential folder. She opens it just enough for Cross to see official-looking identification, but not enough for him to read details clearly. I'd prefer to present formal credentials during the official review process, she says. For security purposes. It's a masterful non-answer. She's shown him something official without actually showing him anything definitive. Cross is left to wonder whether he's dealing with a state judicial council investigator, a federal civil rights monitor, or an extremely sophisticated fraud. Byron, watching this exchange with growing panic, decides to take action. Your Honor, she was trying to access restricted areas. I had to physically restrain her from entering the judicial corridor. You physically restrained me, Essence says quietly, without determining whether I had proper authorization. You made assumptions based on my appearance rather than my credentials. The accusation hangs in the air. Physical restraint of an official investigator, if that's what she is, could constitute assault on a federal officer or obstruction of justice. Cross realizes he's walking through a legal minefield. Tanner Blake, sensing his mentor's desperation, decides to escalate. Your Honor, I think we should call courthouse security. This person might be carrying recording equipment for hostile surveillance. Knox Richmond nods grimly. I can conduct a security screening. Check for weapons, unauthorized devices. Essence looks at Knox with interest. Deputy Richmond, what specific authority permits you to search citizens without probable cause or reasonable suspicion of criminal activity? Knox hesitates. He knows the Fourth Amendment basics, but this woman is asking about specific legal standards in a way that suggests she knows the answers already. Courthouse security protocols, he begins, are subject to constitutional limitations, Essence finishes. Terry v. Ohio establishes that investigatory stops require reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. What specific criminal activity do you suspect me of committing? Knox looks to Judge Cross for guidance. Cross looks to Sterling for legal backup. Sterling realizes he is in over his head. This woman knows criminal procedure better than most defense attorneys. Perhaps, Sterling suggests carefully, we should contact courthouse administration. Let them sort out any jurisdictional questions. It's a reasonable suggestion that buys time while shifting responsibility to someone else. But Essence shakes her head. I'd prefer to complete my initial observations before involving additional personnel. Administrative notification comes after the assessment phase. Byron, sweating now, makes a critical mistake. You can't just show up and demand access to restricted areas. There are procedures, background checks, authorization forms. Mr. Garrison, Essence says with dangerous calm, are you suggesting that proper oversight of judicial operations should be subject to approval by the personnel being overseen? The question exposes the fundamental flaw in Byron's argument. If court clerks could veto oversight investigations, no oversight would ever occur. Cross recognizes the logical trap immediately. Byron, Cross says quietly, perhaps we should accommodate Miss Whitmore's request for observation, within reason. Byron's face goes red. 24 years of running this courthouse, and now his own presiding judge is undermining him in front of everyone. Your Honor, with respect, we don't know who this person really is. We know she's legally knowledgeable, Cross replies pointedly, and we know she's raised legitimate questions about our procedures. Sterling decides to try a different approach. Your Honor, if Miss Whitmore is conducting an official review, shouldn't we have legal counsel present to protect courthouse interests? Are you volunteering your services, Mr. Ashworth? Essence asks. Or would that create a conflict of interest given your regular business relationship with courthouse staff? Sterling's mouth goes dry. How does she know about his relationship with Byron? Has she been watching them? For how long? I don't know what you mean by business relationship, Sterling says carefully. Essence tilts her head slightly. I observed your private consultation with Mr. Garrison this morning. The document exchange appeared quite routine, almost practiced. The lobby goes completely silent. Every lawyer, every court staff member, every defendant waiting for their case suddenly realizes they're witnessing something extraordinary. This unknown woman just accused one of the courthouse's most prominent attorneys of corruption in front of everyone. Knox Richmond's hand moves closer to his radio. This has escalated beyond a simple disruption. If this woman is making serious allegations, backup procedures need to be activated. Judge Cross recognizes that his courthouse is about to become the center of a major incident. Whatever Miss Whitmore's actual authority, her accusations are specific enough to trigger investigations, media attention, and the kind of scrutiny that destroys careers. Miss Whitmore, he says carefully, if you're alleging improper conduct, perhaps we should discuss this privately, in my chambers. I prefer transparency in oversight activities, Essence replies. Private discussions can create appearance problems. Tanner Blake whispers urgently in Byron's ear. Delete the transaction logs, all of them, now. But Essence hears him. Mr. Blake, are you advising Mr. Garrison to destroy potential evidence during an active review? Tanner goes white. Evidence destruction, obstruction of justice, conspiracy. The charges are piling up faster than he can process them. That's not what I meant, Tanner stammers. What did you mean? Essence asks with prosecutorial precision. Silence stretches across the lobby like a held breath. Byron's network is collapsing in real time, each member realizing they're trapped in a legal web they don't understand with a woman who seems to know exactly what she's doing. Sterling makes one final attempt to regain control. Your Honor, I motion for immediate legal counsel. These allegations require proper representation. Mr. Ashworth, Essence says quietly, you might want to consider retaining counsel for yourself. Participation in corruption conspiracies carries significant penalties under federal law. The word federal hits the room like a physical force. Federal means FBI. Federal means serious prison time. Federal means the kind of investigation that destroys not just careers, but entire institutions. Judge Cross stares at Essence with dawning recognition. This isn't some state judicial council efficiency review. This woman has federal authority, federal knowledge, and federal backing. And she's been watching them for God knows how long. Miss Whitmore, Cross says carefully, perhaps we should indeed move this discussion to a more appropriate venue. Essence checks her watch. Court convenes in 8 minutes, Your Honor. I'd prefer to observe standard proceedings before conducting formal interviews. Knox Richmond keys his radio. Control, this is Richmond. I need a supervisor in the main lobby immediately. Possible federal investigation in progress. The radio crackles with acknowledgement, and suddenly everyone in the courthouse knows that their normal morning routine has been permanently shattered. Byron Garrison, the man who controlled access to justice for 24 years, stands in his kingdom watching it crumble around him. All because he grabbed the wrong woman by the collar and assumed she was powerless. He's about to discover just how wrong that assumption was. At 9 a.m. exactly, Deputy Marshal Knox Richmond's voice booms through the courthouse. All rise. The Central Valley Superior Court Part 3B is now in session. The Honorable Judge. He pauses, consulting his notes. The Honorable Judge Essence Whitmore presiding. The courtroom doors open and Essence emerges from the judicial corridor wearing full judicial robes, the heavy black fabric transforming her completely. She's no longer the quiet woman Byron dragged across the lobby. She's a federal judge with 12 years of prosecutorial experience, and every person in that courtroom can feel the shift in power dynamics. Byron Garrison stands at the clerk's station, his face the color of old parchment. On the corner of the bench, placed exactly as ordered, are the keys to judicial chambers, the welcome packet from court administration, and a styrofoam cup of black coffee. Essence takes her seat, and the courtroom follows. The scraping of chairs echoes off marble walls like gunshots. "Good morning," she says into the microphone, her voice carrying easily to every corner of the packed courtroom. "I am Judge Whitmore. I will be handling this calendar moving forward." She opens the first file, and there it is, exactly where she knew it would be. First up, docket number 901, State versus Peterson. Counsel, please approach. The young public defender, Caleb Harper, walks forward with visible relief. Behind him, the assistant district attorney rises from the prosecution table. "Your Honor," Caleb begins, his voice stronger than it was when Byron was intimidating him. "I filed a motion for continuance this morning. The state opposes." "We do, Your Honor," the prosecutor confirms. "The victim has traveled from out of state twice." Essence looks at Caleb. "Counselor, your grounds?" "My client's alibi witness was just located. She lives in rural Nevada and needs time to arrange transportation." "Motion granted," Essence says, without hesitation. Both attorneys blink in surprise. This case was supposed to be a quick denial, a routine crushing of a public defender's hopeless motion. "Your Honor," the prosecutor tries, "the inconvenience to the state." "Motion granted, Counselor," Essence repeats. "The right to present a full defense is constitutional. The inconvenience to the state is logistical." She looks directly at Byron. "Mr. Garrison, please schedule this matter for trial 6 weeks from today. Coordinate with both counsel." Byron's hands shake as he tries to type. The young public defender stares at Essence like he's witnessing a miracle. He just won a motion he was certain to lose, and he won it from a judge who 2 hours ago was being physically restrained in the lobby. The shift in courtroom atmosphere is immediate and electric. This judge doesn't play the usual games. Essence moves through the next 5 cases with surgical efficiency. She denies a routine delay from a high-priced attorney who clearly expected automatic approval. She grants a hardship request from an elderly defendant on a fixed income. The lawyers are learning fast. This judge is fair, fast, and utterly immune to influence. Then she reaches the case that brought her here. Next, request for ex parte temporary restraining order. Sullivan versus Sullivan. Grace Sullivan sits in the front row, still trembling but now with hope instead of terror. She approaches when called. "Miss Sullivan, I have reviewed your petition. I find your claims credible and the threat imminent." The temporary restraining order is granted, effective immediately. Grace breaks down crying, but this time with relief. "Thank you, Your Honor, thank you so much." "Deputy Richmond," Essence continues, "please escort Miss Sullivan to the TRO office and ensure she has safe transport from this building." "Yes, Your Honor," Knox responds, his earlier suspicion replaced by professional respect. But Essence isn't finished. "And Mr. Garrison," she says, her voice acquiring a sharp edge that makes everyone in the courtroom go still, "please bring me the original filing of Sullivan versus Sullivan, the physical document you stamped this morning. Court cases can financially devastate families overnight. MetLife Legal Insurance provides coverage for legal fees, court costs, and attorney consultations starting at just $19 a month. Whether you're facing workplace discrimination or need family law assistance, you're covered. Don't let legal costs prevent you from seeking justice. Visit metlife.com/legal and get protected today." The air in the courtroom changes. Lawyers lean forward. Court reporters stop typing. Everyone senses that something significant is about to happen. "Your Honor," Byron stammers, "the file is in the system." "I am not asking about the system, Mr. Garrison. I am asking for the physical paper you stamped this morning. Retrieve it now." Byron's face goes ashen. This is a direct judicial order in open court. He has no choice but to comply. He walks with leaden steps back to his office, and the courtroom holds its collective breath. When he returns with the file, his hand visibly shakes as he passes it up to the bench. Essence examines it carefully, noting the red ink stamp. Received, 7:58 a.m. Then she looks at the courtroom clock, 9:27 a.m. "Mr. Garrison," she says, her voice dangerously quiet. "I personally observed you accept this filing from Miss Sullivan at approximately 8:15 a.m. I personally observed you stamp it." The courtroom is dead silent. "My observation is that this document has been backdated." The courtroom erupts in hushed whispers. Backdating legal documents is fraud, tampering with evidence, corruption of the judicial process. "Your Honor, there must be some mistake," Byron begins. "There is indeed a mistake," Essence cuts him off, "but it is not mine." She pauses, letting the weight settle. "I am also curious about the emergency override fee you charged Miss Sullivan. The $150 in cash. What statute authorizes that fee?" Byron makes a small, strangled sound. Grace Sullivan from the gallery finds her voice. "He said it was required for emergency processing. I had to pay or wait until tomorrow." "Miss Sullivan," Essence says gravely, "emergency restraining orders are processed free of charge under California Family Code Section 6218. There is no fee. There never has been." The implications hit like a physical blow. Byron has been systematically extorting domestic violence victims, the most vulnerable people in the system. But Essence saves the worst for last. "Furthermore," she announces, raising her voice to address the entire courtroom, "we need to discuss docket assignments, specifically the consultation you had this morning with Mr. Sterling Ashworth." In the back of the courtroom, Sterling Ashworth freezes, his confident entrance transformed into trapped terror as he realizes his corruption has been witnessed and documented. "Mr. Garrison," Essence continues relentlessly, "I am ordering an immediate recess. I am also ordering Deputy Richmond to secure your desk, computer, and all personal effects. You are not to touch anything." She turns to Knox. "Contact the district attorney. Tell him to send his best investigator from the Public Integrity Unit, immediately." Knox straightens, understanding this is the most important assignment of his career. "Yes, Your Honor. And ensure that Mr. Sterling Ashworth does not leave this courthouse. He is a material witness to multiple felonies." "All rise," Knox booms. Essence stands and sweeps from the bench, leaving behind a courtroom in stunned chaos. Byron collapses into his chair, his 24-year empire crumbling in real time. The gavel has fallen, not on a defendant, but on the system itself. Essence's chambers become a command center for the systematic dismantling of courthouse corruption. Deputy Marshal Knox Richmond guards the door while Byron Garrison sits slumped in a guest chair, looking like a man who's aged 20 years in 20 minutes. Essence is on the phone with Court Administrator Philip Hayes, her voice cutting through bureaucratic protests like a laser. "Philip, I don't care about procedure. I'm documenting systematic corruption. Byron Garrison has committed bribery, extortion, and evidence tampering in front of witnesses." She pauses, watching Byron flinch. "You can either come down here and manage this administratively, or you can read about it in tomorrow's headlines after I'm done with the district attorney." She hangs up and turns to Byron, whose remaining defenses are crumbling by the second. "Your Honor, please," Byron whispers. "It was just, I'll pay the money back. All of it." Essence sits behind her desk, studying him with the clinical detachment of a surgeon examining a tumor. "Pay what money back, Mr. Garrison? The $150 you extorted from Grace Sullivan? Or the cash Sterling Ashworth gave you in the white envelope?" She leans forward slightly. "How many envelopes have there been, Byron? How many victims? How long has this courthouse been your personal profit center?" Byron's mouth works soundlessly. The precision of her observations makes denial impossible. The door opens and presiding Judge Hadley Cross enters, his silver hair disheveled and his face flushed with panic and indignation. "Whitmore," he booms, "you can't just detain court employees. You've thrown the entire morning into chaos." "Judge Cross," Essence says, standing. Despite being shorter, she seems to dominate the room. "Please sit down." Something in her tone stops him mid-bluster. "Mr. Garrison is not just a court employee," she continues calmly. "He is a criminal. I have witnessed him commit multiple felonies in the span of 90 minutes. Cross stares at Byron, seeing him clearly for perhaps the first time in years. "Byron? Our Byron? That's a serious accusation, Judge." "Yes, it is," Essence agrees. "Deputy Richmond, you secured his workspace?" "Yes, Your Honor. Nothing in, nothing out." "Excellent. Judge Cross, would you accompany me to examine the evidence?" Without waiting for agreement, Essence strides out of chambers, through the courthouse corridor buzzing with rumors and confusion, and directly to the clerk's station in the main lobby. The lobby is packed with people who sense something momentous happening. Lawyers cluster in whispered conversations. Court staff peer from doorways. Everyone knows the courthouse routine has been shattered. Essence walks behind the counter to Byron's desk with absolute authority. "The top left drawer, Mr. Garrison. Open it." Byron's hands shake so violently he can barely turn the key. When the drawer slides open, the evidence is exactly where Essence said it would be. 2 envelopes lie beneath office supplies. 1 thick white envelope from Sterling. 1 crumpled collection of bills from Grace Sullivan. Judge Cross makes a sound like a deflating balloon. Oh, Byron, no. Using a pen to avoid contamination, Essence indicates the evidence. This envelope contains Sterling Ashworth's payment for advanced docket information corrupting the random assignment system. This cash was extorted from a domestic violence victim who was told she had to pay a non-existent emergency fee. Judge Cross stares at 24 years of corruption laid bare. Byron, why? Byron finally breaks completely, years of resentment pouring out like poison from a lanced wound. Because they don't pay me enough, he screams. 24 years in this place. 24 years of dealing with these people. He gestures wildly at the crowd. 24 years of being treated like a servant while lawyers like Sterling make millions. His confession continues, unstoppable now. Sterling appreciated me. He said I deserved more, and that woman was late. There are procedures. I maintain order. The order you corrupted, Essence says coldly. The procedures you sold. At that moment, 2 men in dark suits enter the courthouse. They flash badges and approach the clerk's station. District Attorney's Office, Public Integrity Unit. We received a call from Judge Whitmore. That's me, Essence says. Gentlemen, meet your primary suspect and your primary evidence. She gestures to Byron and the open drawer. I believe you'll find Mr. Garrison has been operating a sophisticated pay-to-play scheme. The investigator's eyes light up. This is a prosecutor's dream. Evidence, witnesses, and a suspect ready to confess. Your co-conspirator, Sterling Ashworth, is being detained in my courtroom, Essence continues. I'd start with him. Men like Sterling typically cooperate when faced with actual consequences. As the investigators begin processing Byron, reading rights and photographing evidence, Judge Cross approaches Essence with newfound respect and dawning horror. Judge Whitmore, he says quietly, who exactly are you? Essence reaches into her blazer and withdraws the leather credential folder she'd shown him earlier. This time she opens it fully. Federal District Judge credentials. Department of Justice identification. Special assignment authorization from the Attorney General's office. Judge Essence Whitmore, Federal District Court, Central District of California, she says formally. I'm here on special assignment to investigate courthouse corruption under 42 U.S.C. Section 1983. Cross stares at the credentials with growing comprehension. Federal investigation. How long have you been watching us? Long enough, Essence says simply. This courthouse has been under federal scrutiny since the Grace Whitmore case. Cross's face goes white. Whitmore, the domestic violence victim who was murdered after filing delays. My sister, Essence confirms. Grace came to this courthouse seeking protection. She was told to pay illegal fees for emergency processing. When she couldn't pay, her hearing was delayed. She was killed while waiting for justice your system failed to provide. The revelation hits Cross like a physical blow. This isn't just about corruption. This is personal. This is about a federal judge whose sister was murdered because of the very system Essence is now dismantling. You're about to witness the most satisfying courthouse takedown ever recorded. But first, what do you think Byron's reaction will be when he realizes who he just physically assaulted? Drop your predictions in the comments because this reveal is absolutely legendary. The next hour unfolds with the precision of a federal operation that's been planned for months. While Byron is being processed, Sterling Ashworth is brought to Essence's chambers under arrest. He enters flanked by investigators, his expensive suit wrinkled and his confidence completely evaporated. His attorney, Marcus Webb, follows with the expression of a man whose billable hours just became worthless. Judge Whitmore, Webb begins desperately, my client had no knowledge. Your client, Essence cuts him off, settling behind her desk, is facing federal bribery charges, conspiracy to obstruct justice, and tampering with witness information. The evidence is overwhelming. Sterling's face goes gray. Witness information? Essence produces a document from her files. The paper Byron gave you this morning wasn't a docket assignment. It was a sealed witness list for State versus Devlin, your client's case. The list contained the name and address of Maria Santos, the prosecution's star witness, who has been in protective custody. Sterling's mouth falls open. He thought he was buying scheduling information. Instead, he bought evidence that could get someone killed. You purchased confidential witness information from a court official. Essence continues relentlessly. That witness's safety was compromised. Federal marshals had to relocate her family. The investigators lean forward. This isn't just corruption anymore. This is witness endangerment, obstruction of justice, potentially accessory to attempted murder if Devlin's associates had acted on the information. Sterling collapses completely. I didn't know. I thought it was just scheduling. Byron said it was routine. Routine, Essence repeats. How many times have you participated in this routine, Mr. Ashworth? Webb recognizes his client is drowning and throws him a lifeline. Judge Whitmore, if my client cooperates fully, full cooperation, Essence confirms, might convince federal prosecutors to recommend leniency. Emphasis on might. Sterling begins talking immediately, and what comes out is worse than anyone imagined. For 5 years, Byron has been running a full-service corruption operation. Sterling paid for lost files, expedited processing, advanced judge assignments, and in some cases, confidential case information. 6 other attorneys were involved. Dozens of cases were compromised. Hundreds of victims were denied fair treatment. But the revelation that makes Essence's blood run cold concerns her sister's case. Grace Whitmore's restraining order application, Sterling admits under questioning. Byron told me a federal prosecutor's sister was filing. Said it might be worth watching. I told Marcus Devlin. Essence goes perfectly still. You told your client that a federal prosecutor's sister was filing domestic violence charges. I didn't think. It was just information. Marcus Devlin, the organized crime figure Sterling represents, had his associates monitor Grace's case. When her hearing was delayed due to Byron's fee scheme, they knew she was vulnerable. They had 4 extra days to locate her, plan the attack, and execute it. Byron's corruption didn't just delay Grace's hearing. It provided the window of opportunity that got her killed. The room goes silent except for the sound of Sterling's confession being recorded. Essence stares at him with the kind of controlled rage that comes from learning your sister's murder wasn't random violence, but the predictable result of institutional corruption. Mr. Ashworth, she says with deadly calm, your cooperation has been noted. It will not save you. The arrest of Byron Garrison and Sterling Ashworth sends seismic shockwaves through the California judicial system. Within hours, news trucks surround the Central Valley Superior Court. By evening, the story leads every local newscast and several national programs. Courthouse corruption exposed by federal judge becomes the headline that ends careers and launches investigations. Byron pleads guilty to 14 counts of bribery, 28 counts of tampering with court records, and conspiracy to obstruct justice. The federal judge handling sentencing notes that his 24 years of service constitute 24 years of systematic victimization. He receives 8 to 12 years in state prison. Sterling Ashworth's cooperation provides the roadmap for dismantling the entire network, but cooperation doesn't equal absolution. His law license is permanently revoked. His client, Marcus Devlin, facing charges for ordering the surveillance that led to Grace Whitmore's murder, pleads guilty to conspiracy and receives 15 to life. Want to understand your legal rights like Judge Whitmore? Masterclass offers legal training courses taught by Supreme Court justices and constitutional experts. Learn to navigate the legal system, understand court procedures, and protect yourself from institutional abuse. Get unlimited access to over 180 classes for just $180 per year. Visit masterclass.com/legal and start learning from the best legal minds in America. The federal investigation expands rapidly. Byron's client list leads to investigations in 12 other courthouses across 3 states. The pattern is always the same. Court clerks leveraging their administrative power to extract profits from both desperate victims and corrupt attorneys. Judge Cross takes early retirement, citing health concerns. Knox Richmond, after full cooperation with federal investigators, is reassigned to a different courthouse with a notation in his file. Tanner Blake is terminated and faces charges for evidence destruction. But the most significant change comes in the courthouse atmosphere itself. Essence, completing her federal assignment, implements comprehensive reforms before returning to federal court. Her temporary replacement continues the new standards: transparency, accountability, and above all, treating every person who enters the courthouse with basic human dignity. Caleb Harper, promoted to head clerk, hangs a new sign at the window in English and Spanish. We are here to help. Your dignity is our priority. The transformation is profound. What was once Byron's kingdom of casual cruelty becomes a functioning instrument of justice. Public defenders are treated with respect. Defendants are processed efficiently. Emergency filings are handled immediately and without illegal fees. The changes ripple outward in ways both visible and subtle. Court reporters note the decrease in contempt citations. Defense attorneys begin recommending Central Valley to colleagues as a model courthouse. Most significantly, domestic violence filings increase by 47% as word spreads that victims will be treated with compassion rather than exploitation. Grace Sullivan, the woman whose desperate plea for help exposed Byron's extortion scheme, returns monthly to volunteer with victim advocacy services. Her restraining order held. Her ex-husband was arrested attempting to violate it and sentenced to 18 months. She tells other victims, "The system isn't perfect, but it can work when people care about justice more than power." The financial audit reveals the staggering scope of Byron's operation. Over 5 years, he collected $43,000 in illegal fees from domestic violence victims alone. The money is returned to victims through a federal restitution fund, but the trauma of exploitation cannot be so easily remedied. Media attention brings both scrutiny and support. Civil rights organizations praise the investigation as a model for federal oversight. Legal ethics professors use the case in courses about institutional corruption. But for every article celebrating reform, there's another questioning how such systematic abuse could operate undetected for decades. The answer, uncomfortable but necessary, lies in the culture of casual indifference that allowed Byron to flourish. Judges who didn't ask questions about delays. Attorneys who benefited from the corruption while claiming ignorance. Administrators who prioritized efficiency over equity. The entire ecosystem enabled and protected Byron's predation. This federal investigation uncovered corruption in 12 other courthouses across 3 states. Subscribe and hit that notification bell because next week, we're exposing the judge who was selling verdicts to the highest bidder for 20 years. 6 months later, Essence returns to Central Valley for Grace's memorial service. The courthouse flies flags at half-staff. The victim advocacy group Grace supported has been renamed in her honor. Her case becomes the catalyst for statewide judicial reform. But justice, even when served, doesn't fill the void left by loss. Standing in the courthouse lobby where her federal investigation began, Essence reflects on the price of corruption. Byron's greed didn't just steal money from desperate victims, it stole time from Grace, time that could have saved her life. The memorial service is small but meaningful. Grace's former colleagues share stories of her dedication to protecting vulnerable families. Domestic violence survivors speak about the changes her case inspired. Judge Cross, despite his early retirement, attends and publicly apologizes for the institutional failures that cost Grace her life. "We failed her," he says simply. "We failed all of them, but we can honor her memory by ensuring it never happens again." The reforms are working. The new systems protect victims instead of exploiting them. Byron's network has been dismantled completely. Yet as Essence prepares to leave, she notices something troubling in her federal case files. References to Phase 2 authorization, encrypted communications from courthouse networks in other states. Patterns suggesting Byron's operation was part of something larger, more sophisticated, more dangerous. Her phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. "Judge Whitmore, Grace's case connects to ongoing federal trafficking investigation. We need to meet, tonight." Essence stares at the message, feeling the familiar weight of unfinished business. Byron's network is down, but networks have roots, connections, hierarchies that extend far beyond individual courthouses. Her phone rings. The caller ID shows U.S. Attorney Urgent. She answers. "Judge Whitmore? Judge, we need to talk. Tonight." Grace's murder wasn't random, and Byron's network wasn't independent. There's something bigger here, something that goes all the way to federal oversight agencies. "Can you meet?" Essence looks around the courthouse lobby, now clean and efficient and fair, and realizes her work here was just the beginning. "Where and when?" she asks. True karma isn't just about individual punishment. It's about systematic change, institutional reform, and the patient work of building justice from the ground up. Byron Garrison's racist assumptions destroyed his career and his freedom, but more importantly, they exposed a network of corruption that had been destroying lives for years. Judge Essence Whitmore didn't just get revenge for her sister's death. She got justice for hundreds of victims whose stories will never make headlines, but whose lives were made marginally better by the simple radical act of treating them with dignity. Sometimes the person you underestimate, dismiss, or physically restrain is exactly the person with the power to dismantle your entire world. Respect isn't optional. Dignity isn't negotiable. It's the foundation of justice itself. And justice, once awakened, doesn't rest until the work is complete. The phone call ends, but Essence knows this is far from over. Grace's case, Byron's network, and the systematic corruption of American courthouses represent something larger, more dangerous, and more urgent than any single investigation can address. But that's a story for another day. when federal investigations turn into something even more dangerous, federal prosecutions that reach into the highest levels of American judicial administration. The war against corruption has many battles. Today's victory at Central Valley Superior Court is just the first shot in a much larger campaign for justice. And Judge Essence Whitmore is just getting started.